Hello everyone and welcome back to Nodge Spotlight on the MyFootballWriter YouTube channel. It's our weekly review and a bit of a weekly preview, if you will, for the next few days and the weekend to come for Norwich City. I'm Freddie Wakefield, and as always, I am joined by Will Grant, also known as Youth Norwich, on Twitter, if you didn't know that already. But first things first, before we dive into Norwich's amazing comeback draw at Deepdale on Tuesday night, and we preview the game with Michael Carrick's Middlesborough on Sunday afternoon. Will, how have you been? It's been a while since I've spoken to you over a video, a bit virtually rather, but what's been going on with yourself and how have you been, first things first?
Good week, mate, actually. And then it came to Friday where England did really, really bad today in the cricket. We absolutely got spun by a web, unfortunately, so that wasn't too good. And then I saw some annoying news about the press conference about Gunn and Nunes, being out injured. So, yeah, as I get my words correct in the next 2 minutes, Freddie, I'll let you take over and get to the right subject for the first one of the day.
Yeah, so Norwich haven't randomly signed Jane Austen back from the dead. No, we don't have a nun. We haven't got a nun, but we aren't going to have a gun either. It's been revealed literally about, I want to say, an hour before we started recording this that Angus Gunn is still out injured. He has been feeling pain in his back after suffering a rib injury when Norwich played Hull City. He's still in discomfort, and Johannes Torp has made it clear it's at least another 2 weeks out, which means Norwich have got a goalkeeping decision to make between George Long and maybe Archie MAIR. We will get onto that in a second and who we would go with and preferred 11s and whatnot. And then as well, Marcelino Nunez, it looks as if he is not going to play for the foreseeable couple of weeks. Johannes Torp said he wants to be patient with the Chilean midfielder, and he wants to see maybe if he can get him back in before the next international break. Rather, I can't even get my words out. Will, they're clearly, even though we're recording this a bit in the afternoon, we still haven't woken up fully. But no, it looks as if Nunez and Gunn are not going to be playing this weekend, then probably not going to play either for the foreseeable, which is a massive, massive blow because Norwich has proven they aren't really the same team. Without Nunez, there's not as much creativity there, despite the very good attacking outlets Norwich have. And in goal, you either go with a man who really isn't very much perceived in a positive light by many Norwich City fans, or you go with a youth goalkeeper who the highest level he's played is League One, and probably the biggest moment of his career came in a National League playoff final in a penalty shootout. So there's a lot to dissect there just from those points alone. There was massive news from internally within the club. Delia Smith and Michael Wynne-Jones are stepping down in 2025. They will no longer be on the Norwich City board. They have sold the club now. Norfolk Holdings, the group led by the Atanasio family, will now own 85% of the club. They are now the majority shareholders. And in a move which comes after a 28-year tenure for Delia and Michael, one which saved the football club, maybe towards the latter stages, it wasn't as good a relationship between themselves and fans after Norwich couldn't really compete at higher levels because they couldn't have the money. But maybe this will allow the club to have that. But I think that's where we should start, Will, really, with Delia and Michael. Of course, great news in the terms of Norwich now may have more money to compete if they are to become a Premier League club again. And it seems as if Delia and Michael have picked out what could be the right man. It could go horribly wrong. We don't know. That's the unpredictability of football. But it seems the perfect place to start because this is probably the biggest news that is come around Norwich this week. Delia and Michael have sold up. They won't be on the board anymore. They will be honorary vice presidents of the football club. But it has to be said, the work they did for this club, phenomenal, it has to be said. But it's the right time, really, you feel, for them to have to step down and move on.
Yeah, just a word on them before we speak about Atanasios, etc. I've I've always been accustomed with Norwich and Delia being in charge at Norwich since 2010, really, when I started supporting the club quite fondly. And the moments that they've produced and helped us produce, there's been so many highs and lows during that tenure. Albeit it feels like every season there was always a talking point about whether they should move on or stay, etc., etc. But the one thing which was always a major topic with both of them was their dignity and the way that they carried the club forward. Such lovely people, and I've really loved actually in the past few days just reading about everyone's personal stories about Delia and Michael and the kind of times when they were there for people, especially in the hard times. I just think they both show absolutely amazing personalities, and I just wish them well for whatever comes next, because they've saved this club from many difficulties and loads of times really as well. So I'm so thankful for what they've both done for the club. I hold them in very, very high esteem, and I was never really the mindset anyway, especially when Norwich won the championship, that they should be the ones to sell up. I always thought that was majorly down to management issues and stuff like that as well. So yeah, just want to say a massive thank you to Delia and Michael. I'm sure they won't be watching anyway, but I'm just very, very thankful for everything they did for the football club. Really produced so many great memories. And yeah, in terms of Atenasio's, I'm just really glad actually that Delia and Michael are stepping down at quite a nice moment in the club, because it feels like right now, as I said, actually across the whole pre-season and during the early parts of this season, it feels like right now the club is in a really good feeling, really good momentum as well. So I'm just glad that the transition was at quite a positive time for the club and not a negative one, as I feel like then if that was the case when it was a negative time for the club, maybe their reputation and legacy might be slightly tarnished. But thankfully it's not. Absolutely superb custodians to our football club, and I'm looking forward to the next chapter, of course, but have the utmost respect for Delia and Michael. What are your thoughts, Freddie, on that?
No, I can't really add anything more to what you've said. I think they've been such loyal and great servants to the football club. 28 years is a long time. Not even in football. That's longer than I've been alive. So that shows maybe how long it is. But no, it's great what they did for the club. They saved the club after relegation from the Premier League, and they were the forefront in order to get this club back to be able to compete and playing at the top level of football once again. And they've done brilliantly so far. Maybe, of course, the budget was always a concern for Norwich because they were never going to have that much money, but they saw a lot of success in their tenure. They oversaw plenty of promotions, albeit relegations as well. But they really, if it weren't for them, me and you wouldn't really be sitting here having a football club to talk about, and we wouldn't even be able to talk about the board and how they saved the club. So I think it really can't be underestimated just how important they are. And with the Atanasio family coming in, yes, it is a lot more money, which is what football is all about. You need a rich owner. We've already seen that we've seen a lot of positive stuff since his tenure, just in terms of a business perspective. Norwich's internal debts were cleared. They've not lost as much money over the last financial year. So that's a great start already, just from the business perspective of the football club. Maybe on the pitch, it's not been going as well, but ultimately, Delia Smith and Michael Wynne-Jones, they don't sign all the players, and they're not responsible for them all playing either really well or really poorly. So, no, I think it's very arguable. I think it's come at the right time. Maybe could have come a few years earlier for some people, in their opinions, but it's happened now, and we can only look to the future and hope that it all goes really well. But another sort of internal news within the football club, Norwich have got a new first team coach. No, that doesn't mean a manager, Fabrizio Romano. Just stay calm on that. No, we have replaced Narcis Pelac as a member of the coaching staff. We haven't replaced the first team manager, like maybe some were tricked into thinking by a few arguably top-tier journalists getting their words a little bit wrong. Sorry, Fabrizio, if you are watching. I do really enjoy your work, but just maybe see what a first-team coach is as opposed to a first-team manager. Jack Wilshere, who scored that goal for Arsenal a few years ago. I'm sure that will probably be on the loop, and he tells the players, just do this. Do this and you'll score a lot of goals. But he's come in to replace Narcis Pelac, and an appointment who some Norwich fans thought was going to be the actual manager over the summer, but he's joined the coaching staff, of course, knows Ben Napper from having worked with him after young players getting their loan moves sorted, as Napper was loans manager at Arsenal before he came to Norwich. So an internal link there. And with that, Will, could we maybe see a bit of a raid from Arsenal maybe in January? But first things first, before you sort of touch on that and maybe getting in some Arsenal youth players, which I'm sure you know all about, as an actual appointment, quite an exciting one, and a man who knows a lot about how to play the modern style of football.
Yeah, sorry. I've been lucky enough to watch some of Arsenal's under-18s team play actually against Norwich. Obviously, during those games, obviously Arsenal had the superior talent, obviously because London is a bigger catchment area than Norfolk. But even so, you could just tell the way when his teams actually played with possession. It was just, they were so in control. And I think the biggest talking point actually in Wilshire's, with his under-18 side actually, is whenever they had the possession of the ball across the pitch, really, they were always trying to accomplish something with it. It's all good having possession and just trying to take control out of a game and just be a bit maybe more slightly lateral in terms of actually playing forwards and stuff like that. But when Arsenal played with the ball at 18th level, just superb intensity, really, really good ball speed as well. And you can kind of tell actually when you watch his sides in action, just how fluid his sides were, and you just had the impression that he'd always go on to do better things, especially at first team level. So an absolutely amazing pickup for Norwich, especially as well. I'm sure it will motivate a lot of the young players as well. Obviously, as they probably played against some of his teams as well. So very, very good appointment for Norwich, and a really, really good big name. But I'm sure Norwich some more to Jack Wilshere than his playing career pedigree, because he's an absolutely superb coach, and he showcased that so far. So absolutely buzzing for him. Yeah, and talking about his relationship, maybe in the future, if he gets some further Arsenal players, etc., etc. I mean, I think Ben Napper would probably be aware of that as well himself, really. Ben Napper is a very, very astute man when it comes to football strategy, and I feels like if there's ever an opportunity to kind of utilize Arsenal when he can, then I think he would do so. But yeah, I'm very happy with the announcement of Wilshere, especially because his under-18 teams were a blooming nightmare to play against, because you always expect in those weekends when Wilshere did play against Norwich that it's going to be a tough day for our under-18s, but especially yeah, over the moon for Wilshere. Big step for him as well, I'm sure, but yeah, I think it's going to benefit all parties, really. And I think a lot, especially our midfield players, might learn a lot about Wilshire's kind of style of play, but also the different intricacies of the midfield position.
No, it really should do. You said there, that's a great point actually to make about intricacy in midfield. Of course, having been a midfielder who's played for England, played at the Premier League for such a long time. No, I think that's actually a very good point to raise, especially the fact that Norwich, apart from maybe Nunez, don't really have, you could say, an intricate player in midfield. But the experience, although he's still so young, Jack Wilshere, he can add a lot of experience and know-how to that coaching staff, as you just said there. Brings a bit of a different dynamic, you could argue. Of course, it's probably inspired his playing style off of Arteta, who was inspired by Guardiola, who was inspired by Cruyff, who was inspired by etc., etc. But no, in the way, of course, all the way in which they play, it's similar to Torp football. It's patient build-up with plenty of passing moves, being knowledgeable in a player and how they play, and know how to move around different positions and be utilised. Of course, the inverted fullback, a centre-half effectively becoming a midfielder. It's all very much interlinked, all those styles of football. And Wilshere will add experience and knowledge to that, and maybe, as I've just said, could add maybe a bit more something different to maybe how he compares his ideologies to Torap's. And as you said there, could maybe add a bit more sort of know-how for the midfielders and how he can use his own playing experience to implement that and make Norwich a better team. That's ultimately why he's come here, to join a backroom staff to try and improve the way Norwich will play. But quickly touching on, like, as you mentioned about the youth teams, what was the name of that player who scored? Was it 7 in what? Was it Chido Obi Martin? It was something like that. Didn't he score 7 in one game against Norwich or something like that?
Yes, he did. Next question.
All right, we'll move on. Hopefully, he comes in on loan. That could be a good bit of fun. But...
well, he's at Man United, isn't he? So that might be a bit harder. But yeah, he was
never
very good
mind
afternoon.
Never mind then. We'll leave that out. I'm sure that Eric Ten Hag sees something in him. But no, moving on. We'll go back to the game on Sunday. One quick thing to touch on. Of course, Norwich's home form, brilliant. 19 games unbeaten at home. They've not lost at home in nearly a year. This game, if they are to avoid defeat, will not only make it 20 games unbeaten, it will make it a whole calendar year. And Will, I know that when we spoke before the Preston game, and then of course we slightly touched on Middlesbrough, you think very highly of Michael Carrick's team, but do you think highly enough of them that they can be the team to end Norwich's unbeaten run at home at 19? Or can Norwich just, despite injury problems, can they just get enough in the game to come through a 3-week period, maybe unbeaten even? Well, it will be unbeaten even if they draw, but can they get through this game and, despite their injury issues, continue on one of the best unbeaten home runs a Championship has seen?
Look, I think Borough had the potential to win at Carrow Road on Sunday, absolutely. It's backed up numerically as well, actually. They've got some of the best stats in the league. Borough, for example, they've got the best XG in the league as well. But although Borough got the best XG in the league, they only ranked 16th for goals scored. So I think that underlines the main issue as well. And they also rank actually second, along with Norwich as well, with second most big chances missed as well. So you can tell there are a few finishing problems which Borough have, probably similar to Norwich as well. But yeah, mate, Michael Carrick is an absolutely sensational manager. I think it's just trying to get that consistency. It feels like a common pattern of their games really is they start games really, really well, and then they suffer a setback, maybe due to an individual error or quality from the other side. But they just do struggle to kind of sustain control in games, and that has been a prevalent topic throughout. Really, I love the way Borough play. They've got two of the best. I think personally, they've probably got two of the most exciting deep midfielders in the league in Hayden Hackney and Aidan Morris. Both of them are so good at finding passes between the lines. They find Finn Azaz regularly, and Finn Azaz is a player that I want to touch on actually in greater detail because he's been absolutely sensational for Borough this season. I think although he's only got 3 assists for Borough this season, I think he's created 33 chances as well, which is quite incredible actually considering I think we're only 11 games in. So massive credit to Finn Azaz, an investment side which Borough actually took quite a risk on. I think the fee was around £4 million as well. So that was quite a decent fee for Borough to kind of splash on. But I think he showcased his value already actually for Borough regularly. As well as that, they've got a really, really good goal scorer in Lati Lath, really, but he just hasn't been as consistent as he was towards the back end of last campaign, really. And that led to Michael Carrick, having to experiment between Tommy Conway, who they signed, I think, for £5 million from Bristol City as well earlier in the window as well. So he's still trying to find that right formula and balance up front to really try and get the most out of this Borough side in attack. I really love the positions which Riley McGree takes up. They kind of play in a 4-2-3-1 system. On the team sheet, McGree is kind of stated as that left-sided player, but he actually drifts more in towards the pockets, and I think he scored an absolutely superb goal against Nodge. I think it was last season, I think, or maybe the season before, but he scored an absolutely wonderful goal from range, and just a really, really good, tidy and clever player. And what they're so good at, the whole front three dynamic, maybe Doak less so, but Azaz and McGree, they're so good at finding passes for the strikers, through balls, are a massive, massive strength of Borough's play, really. And they're also a very, very versatile side as well. Out of possession, they showcase that they're structured to be a 4-4-2 out possession, but it kind of rotates between a 4-2-3-1 and a 4-3-3 as well. So they are very flexible in the way which they set up out of possession as well. Not really a pressing side. They like to try and keep the structure to try and make it difficult for teams to try and play through them. So I think automatically, in that game, I think Kenny McLean could be a big player for Norwich during the game on Sunday. Although McLean maybe at times isn't the most clinical in terms of finding players in advanced areas with his passing, I think he does showcase and at least try to do that quite regularly as well. So that could be quite a big talking point. But I think if Norwich are to get the better of Borough in this game, I think they're going to have to be very, very slick in their build-up play, and they're going to have to play at quite a good intensity. And what I mean by that, I think we showcased it really well actually against Leeds at home, where we kind of were more of a transitional based team against Leeds at home. So although I think Norwich will try and gain control of the game against Borough, I think it's going to be very, very hard for them to do so, really, because Borough are a very, very good side, and many teams this season, have tried to stop Borough from playing, but they still managed to find a way to do so successfully as well. So Norwich are going to have to be very, very fluent and quick when they move the ball. So I'm speaking when Callum Doyle gets into those midfield positions from deep, and Kenneth Fish as well, they're going to have to try and make that 2-3-5 structure quite quickly, because Borough will try and restrict that from you very, very effectively as well. So Borough are also a very, very good side. They want to play through the centre, and so the Norwich as well. So what that's going to lead to is, I think it's going to be quite a tactical game in that middle centre of the pitch. And I think we've already seen actually against Stoke, against Preston, very, very effective sides at just stopping Norwich playing centrally. So what Stoke and Preston actually did against Norwich is they kind of allowed them to play the first pass through the press as such, but then Norwich found it quite difficult to try and find a pass between McLean and a forward-thinking player, because a lot of the time the middle was kind of blocked off. I think Preston had about 4 midfielders in their three-back formation, so just quite a difficult team. And then that kind of leads to Norwich having to be quite an effective outlet out wide. So it's going to be quite a big game for Ante Cernach and Borja Sainz. And although both of them kind of like to attack the middle, I want to drift in. That could be quite an interesting ploy, actually, because I think both of those wingers kind of will suit Borough, actually, because Borough have got quite a strong core in the middle of the pitch as well. So it's going to be a very, very interesting one. So maybe I was thinking during my team section, maybe actually it's worth playing Kay Gordon against Borough, because he kind of gives you that 1-on-1 outlet against Luke Ayling, or a Brazilian fullback called Borges. I think it's Carlos Borges. So definitely a very, very good team. Borough, very, very organised. They won't pressure you too much, but what they do so well is they block space for you to try and operate. And both of these teams want to operate centrally, because that's how they kind of get their attacks moving. So for me, how I see it, Freddie, it could be a game where it's going to be quite a tactical encounter, or it could be a game where both teams unlock each other quite regularly, and it could be quite a lot of goals actually in it. And obviously, I know George Lloyd hasn't been great this season, which we'll touch on later, I'm sure, but also, their keeper Sonny Dieng hasn't been efficient either. I think he's only got a save percentage of 60% as well. So not too reliable in the sticks either for Borough as well. So for me, I'm kind of tilting more towards a goal scoring draw, but I wouldn't be surprised if any of these sides snatch it by a 1-goal deficit. I think it's going to be a very, very good game, and it feels like, as you said earlier, Freddie, if we win this game, or even draw this game, if we go 20 games unbeaten and we actually manage to win this game, I think it's going to be an absolutely massive statement to the league, because I feel like Borough are a very, very good side, and they are actually my wild card for top 2, actually. So although I think they're 8th right now, definitely should be higher in the league. Really, really good side, and they aren't too bad in defence either. It's just trying to find those goal scorers for them at the critical times. And right now, they're kind of a bit short, but if Norwich win this game, I think for me, that solidifies my point that Norwich do play like a top 2 team at home. And I think right now we're showing the potential to be. But I think if we beat Borough as well, I think definitely not. When Norwich play, they're going to be a top 2 side at home. It's just whether they can translate that away. But a very, very good game expected, I think, mate.
No, it should be. I think it'll be more what you said there, a more tactical battle. You've got 2 managers who, of course, know the modern style of play, and they've studied it and they've perfected it, arguably. That's why they're managers in the second tier of English football. So I think it will be more leaning towards that. It will be a very tough one sort of for the tactical mindset, and there'll probably be a lot of changes within the game, and we'll see Norwich and Middlesbrough try different formations, different shapes and ideas to get around each other and try and carve out goal-scoring opportunities. But as you mentioned earlier, both of these teams miss a lot of big chances, and Middlesbrough, I did the written preview for the MyFootballWriter website. I'll leave a link to the website in the description if anyone fancies reading it. Sort of looking around Middlesbrough, they've only got 6 different goal scorers this season. None of them have scored more than 2 goals, so they've not got many goal scorers. and they don't score, well, individuals don't score very frequently, albeit Norwich have got only 2 players with more than 2 goals. Sargent has 4, Sainz has 8 in the Championship, but Norwich even have 8 different goal scorers. And remember, for the first 5 games of the season, I think it was, they only had 2. So they've come alive in their last few games. They're getting goal scorers all over the pitch. But in terms of that, Norwich, I want to say only Sunderland, who are top of the league, have scored more goals than Norwich. So from that sense, Norwich are a very strong team in scoring goals. But defensively, Middlesbrough are the better ones. The statistics show that. But you mentioned about goalkeepers and save percentages. Well, before we properly get into the predicted starting 11s, or preferred ones rather, so we go into that, we want to talk about save percentages. Let's talk about George Long for a little bit. And just, of course, a player who has been surrounded by opinions since he joined Norwich City. He signed a long-term deal with the club, which, again, has been met with very strong opinions, and they weren't positive, to put it nicely. Not many of them were positive, and he, of course, has played the last 2 games in the league for Norwich. They've conceded 3 goals in those games, but albeit they scored 3 as well, so it counteracts. But you want to talk about save percentages. Let's look at George Long the entire season so far in the games he's played in a Norwich shirt. I want to say he's played 4 games. He has faced 18 shots in those 4 games. He has conceded 10 and only saved 8. It's a save percentage of 44% in all competitions. And I'm not going to go into an opinion. I will stay level-headed. I won't try and swing a narrative. But it's a concerning statistic that your goalkeeper has got. If you're a striker, you've got better than a 50-50 chance of scoring a goal, which for a goalkeeper, that is concerning. That is, you can't not say it's concerning. If you as a goalkeeper are going, if you face 2 shots in a game, you are over 50% to concede, which that is very concerning. But who knows? Will Johannes Otterup go with him? Will he go with Archie MAIR, a youth goalkeeper? Will he maybe go with a complete wild card? Will he play Caleb Anson as well? There's only really options for Norwich are George Long, who just from that statistic alone is a big concern, and any forward of any team will fancy themselves if they know that and they can maybe exploit weaknesses. Or does Torup go with a Archie MAIR, who has only played at the highest level, as I said earlier, or I may not have said it earlier, that might have been before we were recording. The highest he's played is League One. Or you go with a goalkeeper who's not got a first team appearance to their name at any level. So it's an interesting one. But just off of that, Will, what do you do if you're Johannes Otterup? Do you stick and try and see if George Long can reward the contract you gave him, or do you switch it up? And then probably just go into your preferred 11 off of that, beginning with the goalkeeper. But what are you going with? Are you sticking with George Long despite the evident concern and maybe not very strong performances, or are you going to switch it up, go with an academy keeper, and take the risk?
Look, I get your points about George Long, and those stats aren't particularly good from a Norwich perspective. But I just think if you sign a contract for someone on a 3-year deal and you're kind of getting dropped 2 games after you're actually needed, I just think that causes too much problems in terms of like social and personal problems in terms of the harmony of the group. So I think they'll stick with George Long in goal, and I think I will as well just for this game. Look, if he hopefully has a good game against Middlesbrough, I think we did actually see against Stoke actually with George Long that I thought he was actually good in terms of dealing with instant corners quite well as well. So I will just give him that as well. I think he did actually show some authority when Norwich were in those pressurised situations, especially from set pieces. So fair play to him on that regard as well. Yeah, so I think I'll start with George Long in goal. Hopefully he has a good game, and I think we'll all be rooting for him to have a good game because I think obviously Norwich the point is quite an important game. So yeah, and then I'll go back into my preferred 11. I'll go for Cordoba, Duffy as the two centre backs, and Callum Fisher and Doyle as the two full backs. As I touched on actually about a few minutes ago about Doyle and Fisher, we're going to have to be very, very switched on in terms of transitioning into that position shape. Sorry, because I feel like Borough are very, very astute at picking you off if you aren't in that shape fluently, and you are a bit and if you are a bit disjointed, then I think they can pick you off. So Norwich going to have to be very, very quick in transitions in terms of their shape. Kenny McLean for me has to start midfield. I think he's going to have quite an important game actually. He's going to have to try and intercept a lot of those free passes by Aidan Morris and Hayden Hackney. I think Hayden Hackney for me is probably one of the best players in the league as well. So just to add that to the ring, absolutely sensational midfielder, and I think he's going to have quite a big future and probably in the Premier League as well. So yeah, Kenny McLean's got quite a big job to do, I think, against Middlesbrough, and it feels like he's going to need some help actually by Slimani as well. So I wonder if Slimani might play slightly deeper in this game actually, just to kind of give McLean a bit more support to try and deal with Barrow's forward passing. But we'll see. Yeah, I've been really impressed with Anis Slimani actually. Although my expectation was actually when he joined actually, I thought he'd be the player to kind of play a bit more deeper, and McLean might play further forward. But actually, it's been the reverse of that. And you know what? It's worked quite nicely actually. I think Slimani is a very very different player, I think, actually in possession, which Nodge actually used to. It feels like he's much more very, very mobile, strong in midfield with a lot of duels, but he's also quite powerful as well, and he's so good at shrugging players off, especially in the advanced third. So if Nodge are in a difficult situation when they are playing quite attackingly and quite high up, especially in the box, I think if you've got a player like Spidey on the edge of the box just to kind of like nudge a player off the ball, then I think that is absolutely sensational for Norwich. Been so impressed with his physical qualities. I don't think he's the kind of player which can unlock a defence in the past, but I just think he's a very, very good player to keep the ball moving. And then this comes to my next point. I really wanted to put in a Michael Forster for this game against Middlesbrough, just due to I think that Norwich, if Norwich are to break down Barrow's shape, they're going to have to be quite fluid and quick about it. And I think although Michael Forster does like a bit of technical quality at times, a bit isn't overly composed all the time. I just think he would have been a very effective outlet and beating a man out of a settled position and settled defence. So I would have liked to put a Michael Forster into this team, but I just think he's going to go for Oscar Schwartau. And I think although what I'm worried about with this midfield is I think Schwartau has got the potential to have a really good game, but I just think in his game against Stoke, I just think it's a bit too safe on the ball, and I worry about that midfield without Nunes, because it feels like if Norwich do want to try and dominate the ball of this game, it's going to be quite hard to do so when you haven't got Nunes in the team. And I think that kind of makes Norwich a more transitional team, I think it could be. So I think they might just try and get the ball frequently to Sainz and Senach and be a bit more transition-based. But we'll see. Hopefully Oscar Schwartau can provide a bit of technical precision in terms of his final pass in a box or in settled possession as well. So yeah, so I'm going to go for McLean, Schwartau, and Slimani in my midfield three. Then it's got to be for me Senach, Sargent, and Sainz. As long as they're all fit, I want them to go again for me, really, because I think all three of them, are under something to this team right now. Obviously, I think Sainz is in the form of his life. Still, obviously, he's got another goal against Preston. Albeit, I did think Preston actually managed to deal with them quite well. Same with Stoke as well. So hopefully, he could have the better of his right back Luke Halen, because that could be quite a really big battle into the game as well. So we'll see. I think if Nodge are to score a goal, I think it might come from Sainz against Halen, like that kind of one-on-one battle, if you will. And then Senach as well. I think he's done really well actually in his last game against Carrow Road against Leeds. I thought it was very, very good. Just helped the team, especially on transition. I was actually quite quick with his decision making and played some nice passes as well. And then for me, Sargent up front. I expect him to do what he always does and just pose a threat across the game, really. The one thing I will say with Sargent in this game, I think he's going to have he's going to have to show some discipline, I think, because I think Borough are going to try and want to get the ball into Morris and Hackney quite quickly. So if Sargent blocks those passing lanes a lot, then I think Borough are going to have to try and find new ways to try and play. But I'm sure that's been a story for them all season, actually, trying to get Hackney and Morris on the ball. So that's my preferred 11. Is yours similar, mate?
Mine is very similar. It's extremely similar, actually. We're 10 out of 11 for the same. And my change is the goalkeeper. I'm starting Archie MAIR over George Long. I just cannot look over. I can't look over the statistic of his save percentage and the fact he has conceded more than he saved. Just as a goalkeeper, if that is a statistic, you can't help but worry. And I hate to say it, but I'm far too worried about maybe George Long just being, he could become a little bit of a liability in a tough period for Norwich where they need to be getting as many points as possible. I am not pinning this down just because it's the goalkeeper. I'm not saying Norwich aren't picking up points because they've got a substandard goalkeeper, some might argue, in between the sticks. I worry about the statistic of the save percentage and the fact that the opposing striker has got better than a 50% chance of scoring against him. Then that is instantly, say you come up against 4 shots in a game, based off that statistic, you're going to concede twice. And that just, in a game where Norwich have not got to win, but if they do win, it's massive. And a game in which they should look to win. They're at home, going to be backed again by a big crowd. And we know at home they're a different animal. This is where it falls in their favour at the fact that they probably could win this game. But I can't look over that a goalkeeping statistic that simply causes far too much concern. And Archie MAIR, I think for him, of course he'll know that, but his thing will be, he'll probably be extremely eager to play, and he may cause a problem for Torup. And for all we know, he could have gone up to him and said, look, I want to play over this goalkeeper. I don't know why I've not been given a chance, given the statistics. Why can't I play? And maybe then Torup, that gives him a headache and he thinks, you know what? I'll try it. I'll give a young player his chance and I'll see what he can do. And some fans have been saying they want Archie MAIR to start rather than George Long. We could see that come true, but that's my only change. And I do it not because I think George Long is below par, and because, of course, barely anyone in this division will be as good as Angus Gunn. I don't say this because I think George Long is a rubbish goalkeeper. I say this because based on the statistics, how you rate a goalkeeper, it is concerning. And Norwich, if you want to get rid of that, you have to change. And that's just what I think. But as for the rest of the team, I've got the exact same in outfield. Cordoba and Duffy have looked phenomenal as a centre-half partnership. Fisher has come into this team and been an absolute staple. Doyle, again, we know how good he can be. McLean, the captain, you have to start him. Slimane has been a great signing on loan from Sheffield United. He's added exactly what Norwich have needed in midfield for years. Oscar Sfartau is so exciting, and I think he deserves more game time than what he gets. So I think he will start for the sake of maybe rotation. And then front three, Sienats, Sainz, Sargent, it's self-explanatory. Those three have to start. Sargent and Sainz are the only Norwich players with more than 2 goals to their names. Sienats has started to come out of his shell a little bit and he's starting to adapt to this league, but of course only has 1 goal, which as a forward, again, it's concerning, but there's progress there from himself. And of course, if this was a few weeks ago, I'd have cried out for Kyd Gordon. I'd have played Sfartau on the right and Nunez in midfield. And of course, I wasn't the biggest fan, but having watched him and in the last few games, he seems if he is getting better and he warrants a start. I did feel for him really on Tuesday night against Preston. He barely had a kick of the ball, and I felt for him when he got subbed off. I really did feel for him, but Norwich were switching to a 5 at the back and had to make that change tactically to get them back in the game, which they did. So this will probably be a bit more of a different one where Norwich won't be playing against such a deep line and a physical side. It will still be difficult tactically, but I feel as if the front three could get more joy than what they have had over the last 2 games. But without Nunez being that link between defence and attack, you do wonder who starts, who can be that player. Maybe it could be Sfartau. He possesses a good physical element to his game and he's an intelligent player for just 18 years of age. Emi Marcondes maybe wasn't at the races fully against Preston, but he's played what is it, 70 minutes of first team football since May. So the only way you can get better is by playing. But of course, that can take time. So no, my starting 11 is pretty much the exact same, but I would start a different goalkeeper. So that's all from me, really. Unless you got anything more you want to add on that.
Freddie, you do it every week, mate. You always forget a score prediction, and I don't like it. It's like you want an easy way out, don't you? So for me, I'll go first in this one. I think it's going to be 2-2. I think it's going to be a very tactical game, and I think the quality of goalkeepers of both sides might influence the results slightly. So I'm going to go for 2-2. All
right, fine. I'll give a score prediction then. I'll give a score prediction. 3-1 Middlesbrough.
I'm not against it in terms of I could see it happening. Obviously, I hope it doesn't happen, and I can see why you say that, but they are a very good side, Borough, and it feels like they have the quality to produce a result. I mean, look at their result at West Brom as well. A good win there as well. So Borough had I think Borough had the potential to do it, but I just think Norwich at home, I think they've showcased their quality to be a very, very good side at home now. Since the last year, really, they've showcased that, and they can get through difficult matches. And I think they'll just do enough to try and get through this one as well. But I'm very, very excited for this game, Freddie. I think it's going to be an absolute belter.
No, it's a shame. I have to miss it. I'm elsewhere at the time, so I can't watch it. Why do I go for a Middlesbrough sort of convincing win? It's not down to the goalkeeper before anyone makes that assumption. I just think there's the big physical, there's the mental element of a very good unbeaten home run, and that can get to people. Middlesbrough will be very keen to end it, and the past statistics show Carrick has Norwich's number. I think it's 4 games as Middlesbrough manager against Norwich. He's won all 4 of them. He knows how to figure out this side. And of course, it's a very new look team with a lot of new players compared to last season. But I just think Carrick, he evidently has the know-how, and Norwich are without some key players. And I think if Middlesbrough are on top game, they even beat Sheffield United in midweek. They were only the second team to beat them this season. So they evidently are a strong team who know how to beat the sides that they'll be competing with this season. And I think that could be where Norwich have an issue. But anyway, if you want to maybe you want to let us know what you think, do leave a comment down below. We hope you've enjoyed this latest episode of Nodge Spotlight. Maybe even you can go with a preferred 11 if you want to. I've been Freddie Humphrey Wakefield. He has been Will Grant. This has been Nodge Spotlight on the MyFootballWriter YouTube channel. It's goodbye for now, and we'll see you at the weekend for hopefully a podcast where we talk about 3 points. But who knows? With Middlesbrough's form against Norwich, that may not be the case. But as I say, it's goodbye for now, and we'll see you in the next video of ours.